I want to welcome everybody into coffee hour. Welcome everybody. We will be getting started at about 6:03. 6:03 we will get started, but I want to welcome everybody who is tuning in right now. They are coming into the Zoom room. Just hold tight and we will get started in just a couple minutes. Looking forward to sharing the stories of our panelists who are with us today. Again, we will get started at 6:03. Again, I want to welcome everybody into coffee hour. I see the room is starting to fill up here on Zoom. We will be getting started in about 3 minutes at 6:03. Welcome everybody. We look forward to sharing the stories of our panelists who are with us this evening and look forward to getting questions from you. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box there, and I will try to get to as many of those as I possibly can. We do not have the chat feature. We do not have the chat feature live on this, but if you want to tell us where you are in your class year, where in the world you are, and your Penn State class year, go ahead and drop that in the Q&A. And I'd love to see where everybody is from, and then I'll get everybody using the question and answer feature here on Zoom. Also, a special welcome to those of you who are tuning in on Facebook Live, 11 viewers right now on the Penn State Alumni Association's Facebook page. We will be getting started in about 2 minutes. Again, welcome to this special edition, this special We Are Weekend edition of Coffee Hour. Again, I want to welcome everybody in. For those of you tuning in on Facebook Live, we will be getting started in just 1 minute. I apologize for the minor malfunction that we had with the slideshow, but you are in the right place. You are at the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour, a special We Are Weekend edition. Hope you have the decaf brewing for a coffee hour this late in the day, but we are really excited to bring the stories of our panelists to you and talk about the classes of 1970 and the class of 2020. Both fantastic stories that we look forward to bringing to you in just a couple minutes. I see a lot of people coming in right now. We have 23 people on Facebook Live and another 35 or so here in Zoom. If you're just joining us, drop where you are and your class year into the Q&A section here. I can see Michelle Moore is here from Bellefonte from the class of 1985, and David Wolfe probably sitting right next to Judy, or maybe, no, that's her son. Dave, really active volunteer out there in Orange County for us. Class of 94, Roger Moyer, as always, tuning in here, member of the class of 1970 down in Lidditz, and some home cooking with Rich Bundy joining us from Boalsburg, tuning in to see his father, who we will be talking to in just a couple minutes, a two-time graduate, class of 93 and 96. Welcome to the anonymous attendee from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, from the class of 2021. So current student, I see Judy Solano, I see Mark Pobletti, welcome. I'm sure Carol's right next to him, there she is. Carol from the class of 2008, Mark from 07, and one of my class members of the class of 2020 World Campus. So thank you to everybody for letting us know where you are on the Q&A. Feel free to use that Q&A to ask our panelists questions all over the next hour or so. And I am actually going to get this started and bring our panelists in just a moment. But let me go ahead and get us started here. All right, well, welcome into Coffee Hour. Where else would you rather be than a Zoom full of Penn Staters? I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and welcome to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. Each week on Coffee Hour, you can expect to hear the voices of Penn Staters talking about what they are passionate about, and you can expect to feel the pride and the power of the Penn State network. Just as a reminder, and I guess this is a reminder to myself to hit record, we are recording this session. We will be editing it and sharing it with other Penn Staters in hopes that they are inspired by the stories and by the Penn Staters that we will visit with today. So joining me today, and I'm going to ask them to unmute and to come on and share their video. Joining me today from the class of 1970, we have Dr. Dick Bundy, class of 1970, also a graduate degree from Penn State in the class of 87. And Judy Donina Wolfe from the class of 1970, also joining us. Welcome to Dr. Bundy and Judy from the class of 1970. And I am noting that possibly I might have to let them in here. And we are getting to that in a second. And then we will introduce the members of the class of 2020 that are also
hi, everybody.
here in the Zoom. Let me see, Lauren, ask you to join us here as well. Excellent. So I'm also joined by Lauren Dempsey from the class of 2020 and Akhil Maheshwari from the class of 2020. Welcome.
Well, great to be here.
You all. And why don't we dive right into our conversation. So let's first of all help our audience get to know you a little bit better. And we'll start with you, Judy. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and where you are today and just a little bit about yourself and your Penn State experience.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and for everybody that's attending today. My name is Judy Wolfe. I am honored to be representing the class of 1970 alongside our most esteemed classmate, Dr. Richard Bundy. I was raised in the Monongahela Valley, Pennsylvania, and attended Penn State from 1966 until my graduation in March of 1970. After I received my BA, I moved a week later to the state of California, where I work in the travel industry. I'm a proud Penn State mom, and my son and I are both active with the Orange County Inland Empire chapter. He graduated in 94, my sister in 66. Now they say that if you can remember the 60s, you weren't really there, but I was, so I'm gonna try my best today to remember.
Excellent. Thank you, Judy. Let's go to the class of 2020. Lauren Dempsey. Lauren, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I just graduated this May with an advertising and public relations degree with a triple minor in business, psychology, and digital media trends and analytics. Akhil and I are super honored to serve as the Young Alumni Ambassadors for the class of 2020. We're so excited to continue our Penn State experience, even though we're not students anymore, diving full in, and we're really excited to be here. So thank you for having us.
Excellent. Akhil, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akhil Maheshwari. I am, as Lauren said, I'm a grad of the class of 2020. I'm a finance major, and I am actually going to be working for PNC in Raleigh, North Carolina. I actually just signed my place in Raleigh. My roommate, unfortunately, is from Ohio State, so there's definitely going to be some adjustment right there, but I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to working with the Alumni Association. I'm really happy to be here.
And last but certainly not least, the leader of the band, Dr. Richard Bundy. Dr. Bundy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dick Bundy. I'm here in State College, Pennsylvania, and I, like Judy, am pleased to be representing the class of 1970. Glad to have made it this far. I came to Penn State from the Beaver Valley in the western part of the state, and spent 4 years here from 1966 to 1970. And then I had a decade that I was away, some Army time and teaching in the Erie area at the Iroquois School District. And then I came back in, since Akhil has mentioned that other school, Ohio State, I guess it's okay for me to mention that in that 10-year span, I did a degree at Michigan also. So I don't usually talk about that one too much. And then came back in 1980 to be a graduate assistant with the Blue Band and work on my doctorate, and was fortunate enough to be able to stay. Here we are today.
Excellent. Well, let's stay right there with you, Dr. Bundy, and maybe share your memories of your first day on campus.
Well, I remember it being a very confusing time. I was assigned to McKean Hall in East. And in those days, you didn't have much say about who your roommate was going to be, or if you did, I didn't know how to go about doing that before I got here. So I met my roommate for the very first time at that point. My mom and dad, drove me up, and I was the first from my family to attend college. So it was a new experience for everybody. I had come to a summer camp there the summer before, a summer music camp, the summer of 1965, that would have been. And so I knew campus a little bit, but certainly not the way I was going to get to know it being there for 4 years then. So I lived in East Halls for 2 years. And that very first day, I do remember just a lot of confusion and my mom crying, and as she dropped me off and took off, my dad said she cried all the way home. That back then would have been like a 4.5-hour drive back to Beaver, Pennsylvania. But it was good to get settled and then start to learn campus, start to get to know a roommate, start meeting people, and go about the business of becoming a Penn Stater.
And Judy, how about you? What was your first day at Penn State like?
Well, actually, my situation was a little different because I applied late, which is typical of me, and I started at Fayette campus, which was about an hour from my home. And because Fayette didn't have any French classes that I could take, I had placed out of all of them, and that was my major. I placed out of all the ones they offered. About 2 days into being at Fayette, I got notice that they were going to transfer me to University Park. And of course, I was thrilled. I lost the money that I paid for my apartment at Fayette, but I was just so excited. So when I went to Penn State, I ended up at Simmons Hall in a study lounge with about 11 other girls. And I never really liked to get up early, so I scheduled all my classes for later in the day. And all morning long, I'm hearing alarm clocks going off. We used clocks in those days. We didn't use phones. So, but that was a very unusual situation to be in that study lounge. But it just took a couple weeks or so, and we ended up in regular rooms.
Excellent. Akhil, sounds similar to your first day at Penn State?
A little different. Actually, I didn't really know much about Penn State, so it was like my third time, maybe after my tours, going there, Penn State. So I was really nervous, and I remember I signed up late too for Penn State, and because of that, they overbooked our freshman class, and I ended up being roommates with my RA on the floor in Bigler Hall. So definitely a strange experience for sure. I'm sure he was not very happy about that either, being an RA and then having a roommate too. So it was a little interesting for sure. I know it was definitely a bit of an adjustment for me, but I was super excited to be there. It was really hot, those classic East Hall dorms, no AC. It really puts some hair on your chest, really helps you grow a little bit. But yeah, I remember it was really great. Thankfully, I wasn't there for that long in that hall with the RA, but it was a really cool experience. I was so excited to go be a part of Penn State.
Excellent. And not that you were planning on breaking any rules, but I'm sure you had to really toe the line living with your RA.
Of course not. I'm not a rule breaker, but it was just one of those things where I'm sure I was really looking to meet some another freshman, but I got stuck with the senior, so it was a little daunting at first, for sure.
Lauren, what do you remember about your first day in Happy Valley?
So it sounds like Dr. Bundy and I actually had a lot of similar experiences. I also lived in McKean, and I promise it probably wasn't touched since you lived there. I was the last year before they gutted it and completely changed it. So lucky to all the freshmen after us, but it really gave character and quality to that freshman experience. I honestly would not have changed it any other way. And similarly to how your parents cried on the way home, I don't think my dad cried, but I know my mom definitely did. And so once I got everything unpacked and at least felt a little more settled in, there was actually a soccer game going on across the street at Jeffrey Field. So me and my freshman year roommate were like, you know what, we're going to go out. We're going to start the Penn State experience right away. It was really fun. I don't even remember who we played, but I just remember that was such a good introduction to Penn State sports and the enthusiasm that was there, because being a freshman can be scary, but we made the most of it and had so much fun there. So I'm glad McKean was where I started out.
Excellent. So one of my favorite things about our reunions and welcoming our reunion classes back to campus is all the great stories that they tell. And so I'm going to go back to you, Dr. Bundy. Talk about any rules that students today might be scratching their heads about, rules maybe about dorm restrictions or curfews, or when you were allowed to have visitors, anything that sticks out to you as something that our class of 2020 members might be scratching their head about why that was a rule.
Well, as I recall, I don't think Lauren would have been allowed in McKean Hall at the time that I was there, because it was a men's dorm and the women had separate areas, and the women were not allowed to visit the men's dorms and women. There were a lot of restrictions that, at the time, I understood that the concept of in loco parentis, which is what Penn State was following at that time, so it never really seemed odd to me, except years later, as I matured a little bit and I started to, even during my time at Penn State, there was so much student unrest about things like what women's rights essentially were, and having more women involved at campus. And when we were preparing for the committee working on the reunion for this year, and I went looking back through my levee from 1970, I was struck again by how separate men and women's activities were still at that time. Having worked at the university then for 35 years, it was a very different story when I retired from the university by that time. When I was a student in those early days, there were no women in the blue band. It was a 120-piece all-male organization, and nobody really questioned it. Although in that 4-year time span that I was there, that started to be being questioned. And by 1970, women were being added to the blue band, initially in the majorettes and so on and so forth like that. But anyways, that at the time didn't seem odd, but as I look back on it now, it seems quite odd. I can't think of any other, unusual things that struck me at the time. I think it was very interesting how we had to register at that time, where you stood in line at Rec Hall and had to get a computer punch card. You had to go to a desk, tables on the floor of Rec Hall, and they were set up with staff and faculty members there, and they had boxes of these computer punch cards, IBM punch cards, and to get your classes, you went to where a particular class banner was showing, and you asked them for G-Sci 20 Section 1 or whatever you wanted that you thought would fit your schedule. Invariably, that would be already full, and they'd give you, but you could have this. So you take that card, even though if it wasn't going to work for you, because then you went back out on the floor and you started finding somebody you might trade with. Or you went to another place and got another card, but you ended up having to register by it was a long process to get all of the cards that you needed to actually make your schedule work. And it took a lot of finagling and bartering with someone else who might have a section that you needed, and you could maybe trade something that they were after. It was almost like collecting baseball cards when I was a kid. I got a Bill Mazeroski, I'll give you a Bill Mazeroski for your Willie Mays,
Some of those registration cards could be as valuable as maybe a football ticket.
Yeah.
Depending what you need to graduate, right?
Yep, exactly.
Judy, how about you? What rules did you ponder about breaking when you were at Penn State?
Well, 1966 started out pretty blandly, but until 68, when everything broke loose. In the very beginning, we had 11 o'clock curfews in the dorm. On the weekend, we could stay out till 12. And then there were those special weekends, once a month or every few months, we could actually stay out till 1 o'clock. There were no refrigerators or microwaves in our dorm room. So when we used to steal food from the dining room, we would keep them on our windowsills, and in the winter, because it was cold, and in the spring, we just took our chances if that food didn't last. We only had 2 phones in the dorm, on each dorm floor. Nobody had phones in those days, so we had those 2 to share for the entire floor. And then in the dining room, there were rules about how much food you could take. At some point in about 68, we were allowed to have men visit us in the room, but there was the 4 on the floor rule. Everybody had to have their feet on the floor at all times. And women couldn't live off campus until about 1968.
Excellent. Lauren, how about for you? Starting school in 2016, what were some of the things that, while you were at Penn State, some rules that might have changed?
That's a great question. I was actually thinking, based on what you guys have already said, I think it was pretty relaxed. You could really have friends over to the dorm. There was not really a limit. Unless you're too loud, then the RA was going to say something. But you guys could have a study group going on in your room, and the RA wouldn't say anything about that. I was actually really fortunate to have a great RA my freshman year. It was one of the girls on our floor's birthday, so we got her a little ice cream cake from downtown and celebrated. And it was about 8 o'clock, and so she said people have to be studying, quiet down a bit. And I think it was most of the girls from my floor actually in my room. And we're like, oh, it's Kaylin's birthday. And she's like, oh, have fun. And then she came in for a slice of cake. So it was definitely a lot more relaxed and very enjoyable freshman year, especially in McKean. I had a really nice view of Beaver Stadium from my window. It was a really great spot.
Excellent. Akhil, how about you?
I think about it a lot, and I'm like, there's not really any rules that I was like scratching my head about, but and all the dorms in East Halls, every single bathroom had a bathtub in it. And I always thought to myself, was like, why is there a bathtub in these dorms? There were like some of the like really like I wore shower shoes every single time I went to the bathroom over there. So I couldn't even imagine like people going taking a bath in the dorms. So like I was always wondering to myself, like, man, like when did they build these dorms? And like was that like a thing that people used to do way back in there, like take baths in these East Halls and Bigler? It always confused me, and I was always so scared. I never even looked inside the bathtub. I didn't even want to know what I was gonna see. But I was always like, man, it must have been a really strange time taking a bath in Bigler and like coming in to like brush your teeth or something like that. And you see something there.
So as things got relaxed over the years, there were probably certain things that actually got stricter over the years. I think about some of the classes in the 60s and 70s and how it was, I don't want to say relaxed, but how, you know, having a drink in a residence hall, and I'm talking about an alcoholic drink, might have been a little bit easier for somebody who was of age than it might be now. So maybe the bathtub was filled with ice from time to time, Akhil.
Hey, I've heard some rumors. Penn State's a dry campus, but I heard there was a lot of rumors. That a lot of the alumni from way back in the day used to have East Hall keggers. So I think that might have had a lot to do with it. Having a bathtub over there might have been a really great ice bath, you know?
Absolutely. So as I want to welcome everybody in, we have a nice audience here in Zoom, a number of people watching us on Facebook Live. Welcome to the Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour. We are here with members of the class of 1970 and the class of 2020, comparing notes, right? Talking about their Penn State experience. You know, Lauren, something in the background of your room there has actually reminded me of something that's going to take me a little bit off script, but I hope I'm not putting anybody on the spot with this question. You know, I think of the similarities of these two classes, things going on in the world, whether it's social unrest or kind of the fight for social justice, how the semesters have ended. I know that we used a pass-fail system that was used in 1970. The semester ended a little bit short in 1970 as well. But I'm looking back on your wall and I see the pennant from what I believe is the 2016 Big Ten championship game.
Yes.
And if I remember that season, a great season in Penn State football history. And yet, come the end of the season, we were sitting there as Big Ten champions and yet weren't invited to the playoff. I'm going to turn to the members of the class of 1970 who were on campus during a couple undefeated seasons that didn't quite turn out the way that we had hoped for. We had a young coach at the time on campus patrolling the sidelines and raising heck here in the East about Eastern football. And but I'm wondering if Judy or Dr. Bundy, let's start with the class of 70 and talk a little bit about how Penn State had undefeated seasons there in the late 60s, and yet by presidential decree, were not named national champions.
I'm going to let Dick answer sports questions, but I'd like to say something that might surprise the young people. When we first went to the football games, the men wore suits and the women wore sort of cocktail dresses and heels. And not all, but most of the Greeks, because after the games, we went straight to the fraternity houses for parties. And then, of course, when everything changed in '68, that dress code changed as well.
Dr. Bundy, what do you remember?
Well, I can verify that. I was a member of the band, obviously, and I can remember it was almost like a fashion show on the track at Beaver Stadium, like Judy was explaining, where it was a date, guy and a girl, and they would kind of walk the track, and the guys would be in coat and tie, and the ladies dressed up and so forth. And if you weren't in the band, essentially working the game or a fan, you would walk the track. This was at a time when Beaver Stadium had a full track running around the field. To reference your question about football, yeah, we had outstanding football teams The teams of 68-69 and 69-70 were both undefeated. And Paul was referring, of course, to the 68-69 team that went undefeated and then took a bid to the Orange Bowl, and they beat Kansas in one of the most exciting games of all time. It was one that ended twice. The first ending was in favor of Kansas, 14-13, and this was as time was running out on the clock. I mean, less than a minute on the clock, and we had scored a touchdown to make it 14-13, and missed the extra point. We're unsuccessful with the extra point. Or no, we might have tried for two, and we were unsuccessful the first try. I forget what we were trying, but of course Kansas fans erupted and ran on the field because they thought the game was over. And there was a referee in the end zone had to hold a flag up in the air to wave it for it to be seen. There was a penalty on Kansas. They reset everything, and then Bobby Campbell, Burkhardt. Bobby Campbell, I think, scored the touchdown, and then Burkhardt, I think, scored the 2-point conversion, or vice versa, whatever. But anyways, it ended an undefeated season, an Orange Bowl victory, and then President Nixon declared that the winner of the Texas-Oklahoma maybe game was going to be the national champion that year. So that stuck in the craw of a lot of Penn Staters for a lot of years, and made the national championship in 1982 when we beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl even that much sweeter to finally reach that undisputed #1 championship.
And it's notable that that was Joe Paterno's first year as head coach, 1966. So he's been a very important figure for our class.
Right.
Absolutely. Lauren, talk about your memories of your first football season at Penn State, that 2016 magical season.
Absolutely. So we had a great freshman year for football between the Rose Bowl, which was awesome. I was really fortunate to be able to go to all 4 bowl games, and it was really undescribable. It was amazing. But also freshman year, we got to storm the field after beating Ohio State, which is one of the best feelings ever. I actually have this really cool photograph that Onward State captured. And one of my friend's boyfriends got it for me, and now I have it framed. It's really cool of storming the field, and you could just see the excitement and the energy in Beaver Stadium that night. And then we also went to the Big Ten Championship, where I got that pennant and took it back on the 12-hour bus ride. I ran with one of my friends, and within 10 minutes of the bus leaving campus, she got a nosebleed. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long ride. But it was such a great experience, especially with the way the game went. I don't know if you remember exactly all the details, but very stressful being there, especially in the first half. So I'm really glad I got to experience that firsthand. And then actually my senior year, I went to all the games home and away. So got to travel to Minnesota. We drove to Iowa. So 27 hours more round trip. Got to see a lot of cornfields, and I'm so glad to have experienced it all. It was really cool to do the wave to the Children's Hospital at Iowa and get to see all the different stadiums and what football is to them. And there's really nothing like Beaver Stadium, but I'm glad I at least got to take it in and make that judgment for myself.
Absolutely. How about you, Akhil?
And my freshman year, we peaked in football. I got chills when I was hearing Lauren talk about it again. Oh my God, I loved it. Especially because I didn't really know much about college football before I got to Penn State. And then I got there, and we were just winning after the pick game, we were just winning every single game. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I remember storming the field and everything like that. Even after the Wisconsin game, that was on live and everything, going in downtown. That was crazy to me. I remember one time after the Maryland game, Saquon got really famous for hurdling over players. And that was one of the games he hurdled over a player. I don't know why, but an hour after the game, I went to DPDO downtown, and I think and Saquon Barkley and a couple of his friends walked in the DPDO an hour after the game, and I was like, "What? That cannot be right." And he walked out of the store, and I ran after him, and I said, "Mr. Barkley, can I please take a photo?" Because I didn't know what to say. I was like, "This is crazy. This guy's at DPDO right after he just crushed Maryland. Oh my God, it's crazy how small the world is now, But I think that's one of my favorite Penn State moments, though. Just being it's me like when I was like 100 pounds lighter, but like I was meeting Saquon Barkley outside the DPW, and like I was like, this is like surreal right now. But like I love the football program at Penn State. And, like I actually became an intern next year because I was so in love with the program. So it was such a cool experience for me.
That's awesome. So, Akhil, let's stay right there with you. Talk about some of the activities that you were involved in as a student at Penn State.
Yeah, sure. So there was a couple things I was really involved in. I was involved in the South Asian Student Association early on at Penn State. All throughout my college, I've been involved with them. I actually danced at Thon for them this past year, so that was a really great achievement for me, milestone. Another great thing I got to do is I was a football intern, so I worked right across from James Franklin's office my sophomore year. I got to go to all the games, got to walk around the field. I actually got stuck in Tom Wolfe's, the governor of Pennsylvania's, his security detail one time during the Keystone game. It was actually a funny story. But and then my biggest involvement was probably Lion Ambassadors. Lion Ambassadors is something I was really passionate about joining. I've made so many great memories, I've met so many influential, amazing people over there in that organization. It's really helped shape my entire college career, and that's why I'm here right now. So I really have a lot to thank that organization for.
Lauren, how about you?
Absolutely. So like Akhil, I danced in Thon too, and it was such a great experience. I also went to every football game, and I think I went to almost all the basketball games, hockey and wrestling and volleyball too. So really took in the whole Penn State sports experience. I was a student rep for the AdPR Alumni Board, and I served on the executive board for the AdPR Club, as well as the College Communications Student Council. I was also an IM basketball and dodgeball champion. The second to last night of college, actually, we became basketball champions again. So it was really good to get one last IM champ shirt. Those are definitely a hot commodity on campus. So I'm really glad to have gotten another one to really remember it by. And really, I tried to take in everything Penn State as possible. Enjoyed spending time on Old Main Lawn, walking to class in Willard. Willard's definitely very changed from what you guys probably saw in 1970, but it'll be even different now. So I think I made the most of my time at school.
Absolutely. Dr. Bundy, you mentioned you had a weekend job working in the band at during the fall during football games. What else were you involved in on campus?
Well, as a music student at the time, music education student, I was pretty much involved in all of the musical ensembles on campus. So I played in the marching band, in the concert, at that time it was called the Concert Blue Band, and the Wind Ensemble. I played in the pit for a lot of the thespian shows, played in the orchestra, sang in a choir, all of those kinds of. So I was very active with all of those musical kind of things. I didn't get involved with student government or any of those sorts of activities that a lot of students get involved with. I also, being a musician at that time, I also helped pay some of my bills by gigging on the weekend. So, played fraternity dances and off-campus gigs and things like that too.
Excellent. Judy?
Well, none of my activities had to do with academics. I heard you needed a 2.0 to graduate, and I thought the goal was to get as close to that as possible. But all my activities were social, and I was really big in the Greek life. I was a Gamma Phi Beta, and I have so many Gamma Phi Beta friends all over the world actually right now. I was a pledge trainer for them, and we got involved with homecoming and Greek week and social and community service activities. I also belonged to the Penn State Swingers because I loved to sing, and it was a class where you could sing for a couple of hours and get a good grade, and I certainly needed those good grades. But later on, there was a new requirement. You had to learn how to read music, and I never learned how to do that, so I had to drop out. And the third thing that I was really involved in was, and still am, is the card playing. I've been a big card player since I was a little girl, and I learned how to play bridge at Penn State. I never played that game before, and I had a professor friend there. He's still there, Dr. Haya. He invited me to play at the university club every week. So we between us, we won a lot of master's points, and I played a lot of cards with my sorority sisters. And one year I even won a pinochle trophy during Greek week.
That is fantastic. So it's a Zoom full of champions right now with pinochle champions and intramural champions. You are watching Penn State Alumni Association's Coffee Hour, and I'm joined by members of the class of 1970 and the class of 2020. Judy, let's stay right there with you. I want to turn the conversation maybe a little bit more serious. You mentioned 1968 as being an inflection point. Talk about what it was like to be on campus in 1968. What was going on around the country at that point, and also then some of the things that stand out to you. I mentioned earlier whether it's some civil unrest around the country, whether it was you all were dealing with the influenza pandemic while you were in school. Talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the world while you were a student.
Okay, well, again, it all happened in 1968, and there were so many things that happened. Assassination of Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, the Vietnam War was really a big focus. People were protesting diversity, the rights for women, other minorities, and even the idea that we didn't have enough student housing. So there were protests all the time. There were also two other major events in '69 that were very significant for our class, and that was Woodstock and the Moonwalk, which happened in the same summer. And I happened to be attending summer school then. I attended twice summer school. I was living in Bluebell Apartments. And of course, I'd need another hour to tell the stories about those two events. But there were quite a few protests, I have to admit, probably not as grand scale as other states or other major cities, but very significant. And it also didn't help that Richard Nixon had been elected a president that year. And there was a lottery for the military for the first time since 1942. So lots of events, lots of reasons to protest. Everybody took advantage. There was even a bit of bra burning at some point. So it was a big to-do. But I want to mention that there was such a significant change between 1966 and 1968 as far as what we wore, what we listened to, the movies that were made. Everything changed drastically.
Dr. Bundy, how about for you? Your thoughts and kind of memories of that time?
Well, those were very turbulent times across the country, and while Penn State wasn't as turbulent as like Berkeley and Columbia and some of the really hot spots for student unrest in dealing with all those issues that Judy just talked about, those things were happening at Penn State as well. And the awareness and the dissatisfaction with the United States involvement in the Vietnam War was growing. That was, '68 was also the year of what the Tet Offensive, which some people may have heard of, which was a point, sort of a tipping point, I think, in terms of the country's perception of the Vietnam War. And then, of course, in the draft lottery, that was the one lottery that I ever pulled. I call it a winning number, but what it meant was I was going to be drafted. So I was also a little different than maybe the normal student at that time, in that I had gotten engaged from the 1967-68 school year. I was engaged, and in the summer of '68 I was married. And so coming back to school, I was married. My wife and I lived a block down Lynn Street from where we live today at that point, in a little efficiency apartment. She was working for the university at that time, was working in Old Main, and there was a couple of times where the staff and people in Old Main were escorted out of Old Main by state police in order to protect them from demonstrations and demonstrators that were coming in, and Old Main got taken over a couple of times by demonstrations. In general, most of them were fairly non-violent, but there were some injuries, and there were some things like rock throwing and damage to university buildings and things like that were going on. As a student with a draft number of 104, that started really to weigh on my mind in terms of what was next, because it was pretty obvious what was going to be next for me when I graduated. You know, I had I think they called it what the student deferment, I forget, was 1A maybe. I might have that mixed up, but I had the student deferment while I was in school, but when you graduated, that went away, and then your draft status was what was going to affect your future at that point. You know, so it was a very turbulent time, you know. And then in the summer of 70, I think it was, that the shooting at Kent State took place, and students demonstrating against the war at Kent State. The National Guard came in, and there were some students killed at Kent State. That hit us hard in terms of being on your mind. Very shortly after that, there was a student shooting at Jackson State, primarily black college, and a couple of students were killed. And so a lot of really very difficult things to process, on top of things like the Martin Luther King assassination and the assassination of Robert Kennedy and all of that in that time frame of starting in 68 and 69 going into 70. It was a really turbulent end to the 60s. And I know, in addition to school at that time, for me anyways, one of the things that was on my mind was knowing that I was going to be drafted, you know. Right. So I started making some plans there.
I'd like to quickly add that I used to say that the years that we went to school, 66 to 70, were the most challenging years in any student history. But since March of 2020, I can no longer say that.
Yeah, that's a great segue to the members of our class of 2020. But before we do that, Dr. Bundy, I know it wasn't a lottery that you wanted to win, but certainly we're grateful for your service to our country. And so thank you for your service. So let's move to the class of 2020 and talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you have faced, not just as a member just since March, right? But as I think about some of the similarities between your time on campus from 2016 to 2020, and really throughout your whole life, you know, the United States has been involved in some sort of war, right? Where there's military and men and women in uniform serving around the world. And so that's been really consistent part of your entire lifetime. And then, you know, you come to Penn State and certainly have to deal with the pandemic in the last couple of months. Certainly nothing new to the world, but we still seem to be fighting the same social injustice problems that we have been fighting during the 60s. Lauren, talk a little bit about just about all that I've just mentioned and how that had an impact on you and your Penn State experience.
Dr. Bundy said it very well. It's a very turbulent time for the world, especially with the coronavirus, not knowing what's going on, all the social injustice. It's a very different time. I don't think that many people know really how to respond when for the coronavirus specifically. Doctors don't know what's happening, so trying to treat patients when they don't even know how to properly do this, especially in the beginning when it was barely even talked about, and then the words started coming, coronavirus, COVID-19, it was very different than the Spanish flu, because now we have social media and all these other platforms to speak about it on, to spread information. And then with that, there was a lot of fake news that went around, which also can be very harmful to the world, and people knowing what to believe and what not to believe. And then there's always debates on, should people wear masks? Should people not wear masks? And it causes a lot of unrest in the world. And it's also not helpful for the economy. And a lot of people are really facing a lot of hardships for their jobs and stuff. I know myself and other friends looking for a job, this is definitely not the best time for a recent graduate to be in the market. And then also on the social injustice, it's just so sad to see so much unrest and people being killed and everything going on. I just hope there can be peace for the world.
Akhil, thoughts?
You know, it's been a really hard time, Paul, to be honest with you. I think back to my freshman year, the 2016 election. Obviously, that was a very isolating thing, especially on campus, like a campus this large. There was protests. I remember I was in my comm class, and my professor said he actually left the classroom during the thing to protest. So it was just really, it like really hit me different. I never like really thought about it until now about like the impact of that. And like Lauren talks about coronavirus and everything like that, but like the biggest thing to me right now is Black Lives Matter. You know, like I've been so proud of like the Penn State community, the Penn State students that have been organizing these protests at on Allen Street, on Atherton Street. They've been speaking up for like these people who would need to be spoken up for. You know, it's great to see like so many people like really supporting one cause, but we all need to do better. You know, so it's great to see like these students doing like standing up, like really supporting the cause, making sure they bring awareness to it. And I'm really excited to see like what more we can do. We shouldn't be happy with what we've done so far. We should continue to be seeing what more can we do. What petitions have you signed today? Have you donated money today? There's so many things you can do, especially on social media, Facebook. Look online, you'll be able to find any resource over there. So it's great to see so many Penn State students over there, and hopefully as an entire Penn State community and as a school, like we can really come on the same page and really help like really make sure that this is something that we really bring light to. I'm really been happy to see what we've done so far, but we need to continue to know it's not enough, and we got to see what more we can do as a university, as a student, as a teacher, even at the executive level. We need to be able to do all these things. So I'm really hopeful that Penn State can really come together as an entire community and continue to support this. And I think this is going to be something that's going to really reflect on Penn State for years to come. I'm sure Judy and Dr. Bundy, like I'm sure you guys have seen history books and like you thought I lived through that moment. I think we're in one of those moments right now where we're going to be reading about this in history books, and I'm really hopeful like that Penn State's going to be on the right side of history and make sure that they make the right choices throughout this entire movement. So I'm really looking forward to the future and hoping we can make a difference.
Absolutely, and very well said. You know, all too often the external perception of colleges and universities is the the proverbial ivory tower, and that we are somehow isolated. And yet, listening to each of you talk, what's going on in the world actually has a significant impact on your experience as a student. Maybe it's because it's the time in your lives, and that it's a formative time, right? You're thinking about your personal view of the world, right? What's going on in the world begins to shape your thoughts and kind of really hone in on what your values and beliefs are. And listening to your stories, that really was the biggest kind of takeaway, is that yes, you know, colleges and universities are somewhat safe spaces for people during this time of their lives to really hone in on what their values are and what they believe, and how they're going to move forward and fight for what's right. And I think you all articulated that. The other thing that you all have in common has been how, while you've moved away from your Penn State student experience, each of you in your own unique way has stopped and turned around and asked the university, how can you serve? And you've all served the university now in four really unique ways. And so I'd like for you to share maybe a little bit about those experiences. Lauren, let me start with you and talk a little bit about why, after graduating, did you decide you wanted to continue to stay involved right away as a young alumni ambassador?
Definitely. So Penn State really helped me to be the person I am. After high school, you really get to decide what you want to do, where you want to go, and how you want to be that person you want to be. Penn State was the best 4 years of my life, or 3.67, but the best in theory 4 years of my life. I absolutely loved it. And everyone that helped me influence my decision to go to Penn State, it's people like that that make me want to be that person myself and help future Penn Staters and really carry the Penn State pride and tradition. It's so nice to see just like a Penn State shirt on the street. I'm from New York, so it's even extra special. Not as many Penn Staters here, but just seeing someone with a little Nittany Lion emblem on their hat makes me want to scream "We Are" across the street in New York City. It brings a smile to your face everywhere you go. And I think being involved is also super important because it shows how much you love it and how much you want to help others love it too, especially to high school students and stuff who are now trying to do college tours virtually. I'm so happy to hop on a phone call with anyone considering Penn State because it's really different than being able to go see the campus and getting to experience what it's actually like to have that energy and excitement. So really just to help Penn State thrive and continue to be the great place it is. I want everyone to be as fond of Happy Valley as I am. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Akhil, how about for you? You know, you've been involved with the Alumni Association as a Lion Ambassador, well, as I like to say, walking backwards into history. But you're also kind of leading other Penn Staters, you know, by walking backwards. You know, after all of your service to the Alumni Association, it might have been understandable that you take a minute, take a deep breath, but no, you jumped right back into this opportunity. Talk a little bit about what the Young Alumni Ambassador Program means to you.
Yeah, so obviously, like as Lauren said, the best 3.67 years of my life. But what I was really like looking forward to, like at the end of this, like college was a closure. You know, like getting like that last 0.33. You know, like that last 0.33 of college sounded like closing out everything, being able to talk to everybody, being able to say farewell, and like my way. And I didn't get that. So my biggest thing was like, I'm not done with Penn State. Like that was my biggest thing. I know like my time here might be over, but I'm not done with Penn State. So that was my biggest motivation for it. How can I give back to a school that's given me so much? And the Young Alumni Association, the Young Alumni Ambassador Program was a great way for me to do that, I think. I haven't really done much yet. I'm really excited for the journey that come. But I'm super excited to see how I can give back to this university and really be able to share that pride with other people. I'm really excited to be a part of like this program because it gives me so many opportunities to meet other young alumni as well as like other alumni too, just because we're such a big group of people, the largest alumni association in the world. So we're everywhere, you know what I mean? Especially for me going to Raleigh, I don't know anybody there. So I'm really looking forward to getting to have that little piece of Penn State in Raleigh. So for me, it's going to be a win-win for me. I'm really looking forward to it.
You're going to love living in Raleigh. Shout out to the Penn State Triangle chapter down there. They know how to have a good time on football weekend, but they also do a great job of keeping Penn Staters connected to the institution. Judy, you have firsthand knowledge of what it's like to work with the chapter and extend that Penn State experience 3,000 miles away there in Orange County. Talk a little bit about your involvement with Penn State since you've graduated.
Well, for all alumni, and especially the new grads, no matter where you end up living, be active in your local Penn State chapter. They need you and you need them. It's great for networking. It's a great way to give back. Our chapter has been responsible for raising tens of thousands of dollars for scholarships for local students, thousands of dollars for thon raised in California and sent back to Pennsylvania. So definitely get involved with your chapter.
Now, Dr. Bundy, you referenced your military service after Penn State. You also referenced the brief lapse in judgment that you had by going to the University of Michigan, but then you came back to Penn State, not only for graduate study, but then for a fantastic career and leading the Blue Band. Talk a little bit about your service back to Penn State.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind comments. Yeah, when we came back to Penn State in the fall of 1980, my wife and I have talked a lot of times about how it felt like we were coming home because having been married at Penn State for 2 years, my junior and senior year, and struggling to get through. I mean, the last semester, and Lauren and Akhil might get a kick out of this. At that time, it was terms, and the tuition was $200 per term. For my last term, we were short $75 on my tuition, and got an extension. And the day before the extension was due, we got our income tax return, which gave us what we needed to be able to go and pay my tuition for the last term. And then we stopped at the creamery. We had enough left over to each have an ice cream cone. Those kinds of things, when you, I think, struggle and work through achieving a goal together as we did there, is what made it seem like we were coming home when we came back in 1980. Now, when we left in 1970, it was just the two of us. When we came back in 1980, we had 4 children. So the experience was a little bit different, and those children all have gone on to go to Penn State and become Penn Staters as well. Now, to your direct question, I'm sorry I got a little.
That's okay.
But I felt when I came back in 1980 and had an opportunity to work on the other side of the band, from a staff standpoint, I always felt, and I began to feel even more strongly that one of the things that a lot of Penn Staters associate with Penn State is the Blue Band, and it had been such a great experience for me. I wanted to do what I could to provide that experience to students coming in, and to build the program and hopefully make it even a better experience for current students. And so a lot of what I attempted to do with the program at that time was to build that connection with the students coming in, and making that experience be something that solidified their connection to Penn State. And I feel that one of the experiences that Blue Band students had, being a group that was an entity before classes even started, and then took part in a lot of important campus activities, helps to build a strong connection to the university. And so I think that the Alumni Band Blue Band Association is one of the largest groups of people associated with Penn State. And I think that's not because of me, but because of that connection that they made, and the connection that they make by having had a good experience in there. Now, those were the ways, I guess, that I felt like I could make a contribution to Penn State, and hopefully make that be something that was memorable to those students.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we used to have a football coach here who used to admonish people to go out into the world and make an impact. And certainly you all have done that in your lives, and have done that now on behalf of Penn State. And so you continue to do that in so many different ways. Dr. Bundy, I'm going to put you, I'm going to tell a story. And some people on this call know this story. I know there's a number of staff members. I know your son, my boss, Rich, is on here. But every other year, the Alumni Association does a survey of alumni. And one of the final questions that we ask is, name a person at Penn State who has had a significant impact on your experiences. And as you would expect, Joe Paterno's name comes back, and it's one of the largest on the page. But right up there near it, and it's a word cloud, if you can imagine that, is Dr. Bundy. Every single time we do it. And so while you give the credit to your members of the band and the impact that they had on each other's lives, know the significant impact that you've had on people's lives, and being able to really be a significant part of what people remember about Penn State. And so I don't know if I've ever shared that story with you, but it is always great to see see your name up there.
I hadn't heard that. That's very flattering.
Yeah. Sam Richards, Akhil, you mentioned Sam Richards. His name is also up there as well as a faculty member, doing a really good job. in the classroom having an impact on Penn Staters. Well, we are close to out of time. We have some questions that have come in, but I want to turn to the class of 1970 members and ask if you had a message or maybe a nugget of wisdom or a piece of advice for the members of the class of 2020. What might that be? You have two members here that you could pass on some of your experience to them. Judy, what would your advice be?
Well, first of all, choose a job that you truly love to do. If it happens to get to pay very well, lucky you. Do something you love. Be flexible and compassionate and resourceful in your life, because things are going to happen. And when you have children, encourage them to go to Penn State, because there's no greater joy and pride in sharing an alma mater with your child, even if you have to pay out of state tuition.
That is great. How about for you, Dr. Bundy?
Well, I guess I would say something along the lines of I had the good fortune of addressing the graduates of the College of Arts and Architecture the year that I retired in 2015, and my commencement address to them was about the butterfly effect. And I guess I would say to the class of 2020, and already Lauren and Akhil demonstrate this, I would say to be the change that you want to see. I've always felt that it's important that you, in the way you conduct yourselves and what you do, that you are true to what you are expecting from other people as well. And I think that a mindset like that, I think, will reach more people, and you never know how far that butterfly effect will reach and to what extent that will make a difference in the world. And I think the more people that we have that go out and try to do the kinds of things that will make a difference in the world, the better we will all be for that.
And to you, the class of 2020, you know, the saying that sticks out in my mind is that I was able to see farther because I stood on the shoulder of giants. And certainly I think that that's part of what makes Penn State special. We certainly have two giants from the class of 1970 representing their classmates, but they represent over 700,000 alumni. Alumni that are donors, that give of their time, their talent, and their treasure back to Penn State to ensure that your Penn State experience was in ways similar, if not better, to their Penn State experience. And so what would your message be back to the scores of Penn Staters that came before you? And Akhil, I'm going to turn to you first.
I just want to thank both you, Ms. Wolfe, and you, Dr. Bundy, for being here. Your resilience as a class was almost unmatched. I think you guys have shown everyone on this call what it was like to be a model Penn Stater. And I hope that I am able to have an impact later on after graduation, just like you both were able to. So you guys have really paved the way for all of us, and I am so honored to be associated with you guys in any type of way, as small as that might be. Thank you so much. I can't wait to be a part of the largest alumni association in the world.
How about you, Lauren?
Echoing what Akhil said, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to really give back to Penn State in what could be a little way, but be a big way too, because you never know what maybe future student might watch this and learn about your experiences and learn that we both lived in McKean and how great it is to be there 50 years later. I also want to say my piece of advice would be to keep being the proud alums you are, because seeing someone wear a Penn State shirt on the most random time of the day just brings a smile to your face and makes it feel like home away from home wherever you are. So having that smile and knowing that there's a Penn State connection and that Penn Staters are everywhere definitely brings a lot of joy to both myself and my peers as well. So thank you guys for everything.
Thank you.
Akhil and Lauren, when we had our phone conversations now over a month ago, I think I shared one of the things that I love most about the work that I get to do for Penn State is watching Penn State alumni realize things about their Penn State experience that they didn't quite expect to realize. You know, and I mentioned to you all, you graduate and you're close with that small group of folks, right? And you think that they're going to be your friends forever, and that that's going to be your Penn State friend group. And for many people, that's true. But then you get involved with the Alumni Association, either as a chapter leader, or you come back to campus to work, or you're young alumni ambassadors. And then that Penn State group grows a little bit to that cohort that you're going through that experience with, or that you're serving on a chapter board with. And not only does it grow, but it grows in terms of people from different generations, people from different parts of the country and parts of the world coming into it. And then maybe you get season football tickets, right? And you're tailgating next to people, and they become part of your Penn State family. And you go into the stadium, and the people you sit with in the stadium become part of your Penn State family. The more involved that you are with Penn State, the larger that Penn State friend group will be, and the more diverse that friend group will be, and the different kind of experience that are introduced, the different kinds of Penn State experiences that are introduced and that you become aware of become more and more and more. And so while it might seem like you're walking away from this experience, you're also walking towards a lifetime of being connected to Penn State and this great institution, and to these great people.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Coffee Hour. I know we've gone a little bit over time. Hopefully you've been sipping on the decaf and not the high octane stuff. We're so grateful to have so many people tune in. And while the class of 1970s reunion year probably didn't turn out the way that you had predicted, and the class of 2020s time at Penn State probably didn't turn out the way that you predicted, they will certainly both be unforgettable experiences. And know how honored we are at the Alumni Association to have played just a small piece of both of those experiences. And so thank you for joining us today. Thank you for allowing us to share your story with other Penn Staters.
Thank
Congratulations again, Lauren and Akhil.
Thank you
so much.
And thank you to everybody tuning in on Zoom and on Facebook Live. If you like this experience, there's more to come from the Penn State Alumni Association. Just log on to our website at alumni.psu.edu/events, and you could see all the great programs that we have coming up to keep Penn Staters connected all around the world, 24/7, and all throughout your lifetime. And so thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you soon in person, but until then, we are
Penn State.
Penn State.
Thank you.